Welcome to the Synapse Philosophy Group, everyone. It is great to have you all here. We've got Carol, Crystal. We miss you. I'm so happy to see you. Our PHC honorarium.
Yeah,
we absolutely love you.
Here we are.
And we got her husband is back from Haiti, safe after serving thousands of people in Haiti.
Yeah,
he's beautiful.
He's here in a second, but he's going to be here in 5 minutes. He's on his way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Alan Lichter, extraordinaire, the one and the only. He is in competition of, getting the coolest Dee Palmer lookalike beard in chiropractic, I think. Absolutely. We just need to get those locks down,
And I did that. I did that already. That's gone.
I'm sure. Okay. All right.
Someday I'll send you a picture sometime.
Yeah, you got to post it here. We all want to see it. With your dead shirt on, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Alan, would you like to continue on this one?
Happy to.
You're such a nice reader, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
So we're starting in the middle of 27 then?
Correct.
Okay.
27. Okay.
So we're reading B.J. Palmer's Our Masterpiece, the last work of his that was published, and it was published posthumously by David. And we're on page 27 in the middle of the page. There is only one issue, not 10, to be proven scientific that tick is a philosophy, science, and art. No one element lives alone in living bodies. No one factor lives alone in sick and healthy bodies. It takes joint action of all three to prove tick is scientifically sound, innately and physically. Without any one element, tick fails to be true or sound. Without this unity, we have nothing to prove. No, not one of these three united living elements can be separated from the other two for scientific research, especially when one is exclusively physical, omitting its abstract producer, maintainer, and reproductive factor. Bada bing. That's serious stuff.
That's it.
This is, this says philosophy, art, and science, and you need all of them together. You need three legs for the stool to be stable.
Now, not one, but all three united living elements. Living. They're not stagnant. And the reason why we're doing this is really to bring it to life, but to add our new life. And that's where the science of today is different than it was then. They've done more research. We know what goes on, maybe no more in the neurons. Definitely since then, we know that the CSF and the dura almost, I think it comes all the way out to the periphery. So the sciences, I always feel, is really the science of today. It's not us proving or reproving. Carol, I'm just going to mute you, okay? Just a little.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So the science is the scientific work that we are doing as researchers in chiropractic, mostly clinical, but it's also using the science from the current researchers outside of chiropractic. Speransky being one of them, but that's in the 1940s. And I think Speransky is one of the most important books. Here it is right here. And I'll read it. The Basis and Theory of Medicine. What is the role of the nervous system in disease? To what extent is it a factor in regulating metabolic change involved in the growth and functioning of the tissue? This book includes 46 illustrations, blah, blah, blah. But they prove chiropractic in there. We can use that. So I don't think we all have to just go and make Faraday cages, unless we want to survive, the electromagnetic pulse from World War III. But we'll figure that out later on. Any other input?
I'm good.
All right, let's move forward.
Okie doke. Our typograph research was developed to prove the unity of innate and its body function, subluxation as an art as a corrective factor, recording quantity flow reduction before adjustment, recording increased restoration of quantity flow after adjustment, following subsequent quantity flows until case was restored to health. Our instrument had 1 second timing factor on all 8 graphs, which determined speed of travel of mental impulse flows, brain to body, body to brain, efferently and afferently, proving innate philosophy, vertebral subluxation, cause of interference, vertebral adjustment, cause of restoration, until health was restored. I think it's interesting here. Subluxation as an art as corrective factor. That's an interesting thought process there.
What's the process? What do you get from it?
Well, and people talk about subluxation as a problem, and he's talking about it as subluxation as a corrective factor.
And that's exactly where I really feel we're going. You know, it's a corrective factor. And Nate is speaking to the chiropractor saying, adjust me here. And, you know, it is, I think it's the shifting from, it's easier to think in lack, less expression of light or life, instead of under the expression of that light and paying attention to it. I think that really was just, you know, what we talk about. I was just marking this with, of course, a crayon. I'm marking the paragraph after that, and, you know, and marking this one that you're talking about. And that's I think one of those, you know, subluxation as an art, as a corrective factor. I mean, I'm intrigued by that so well.
I think that there's another piece of that, as a corrective factor, that we have to realize that there's been a force come into the body that was potentially damaging. Subluxation is an innate response to that at least stops that more severe damage in that moment. It may cause other issues by its presence, but it's a corrective factor in that it's limiting a more severe injury in that moment that it becomes present, and then it's stuck.
That is the argument that I have heard the least while I'm in chiropractic.
Yeah.
In 14th quarter with McCoy, who's become a good friend of mine, and I think he's a warrior for chiropractic, Matt McCoy. Yeah. And he was our research professor. And my final thesis was, is the subluxation killing us or saving our life? Because it could be a regulatory factor. Yeah. If there's too much stimulation, hey, let's turn down the valve, right? So when you said that and you keyed into that, man, I just got flashbacks of 14th quarter. I don't think he liked my paper, honestly. But I feel it's a very, very powerful statement, right, Carol? And, you know, we don't know everything about the subluxation. We know a little teeny tiny bit of it. There's, you know, even Stevenson says there's so much. We're just budding in this philosophy, how amazing it is. And, you know, taking that to heart with that. But I'm right on target with you, Alan. I mean, we don't know. Why couldn't it? And it does make so much sense to me.
You know, and we don't know how many subluxations occur and are then auto-corrected by other forces going on in the body, you know, or other things that you're doing. You know, I've tangentially, not a vertebral subluxation, but I've been having trouble with one of my knees, and the other night I rolled over in bed and I felt something shift and it ached for a minute. And the knee's been not 100%, but better ever since. Okay, what was that? You know, but that happens, and that can happen in our spine and to our nerve system as well.
You know, I have had, you know, this year's been emotional for everyone, right? The past couple of years, right? And I have pinpointed triggers of my own of junk, maybe that it's been holding me back. And I have literally felt vertebra move in my spine, and I have felt better. I was clearer, and my posture became more erect. Like I'm in alignment now, just as an emotional release for myself. I'm of the school of getting in touch with ourselves and finding what may be holding us back in life or bringing us forward. So I spend time in that in my own meditations, and just I have felt those things. Interesting you say that, Alan.
Well, how often? Well, and we have to remember that we think primarily in terms of putting our hands on people or an instrument on somebody to move a vertebra to help to put force in to allow innate to make a change in the body. But how often have you, like you said, you think about things and things change? How often have you been talking to a patient and you see their respiration change, you see their body posture change, you see their attitude change, or yeah, exactly. Just before you put your hands on them, you're talking to them, and something you say, and it just allows a release. Or even just somebody you're talking to on the street or at a party or wherever. I've seen that happen, and that's an adjustment too.
Yeah. And now,
but we think about it because that's allowing innate internally, because we remember it's physical, chemical, and auto suggestion, right? Thoughts, we've made it the 3 T's, but it's physical, chemical, and auto suggestion are the things that they talk about. And it's auto suggestion is also can be when you present something to somebody and then their body's able to deal with it. So anyway.
Pasquale used to tell us thoughts are things, and be careful what you wish for, right?
That's exactly right.
Alan, how many times have you had somebody come in your office, said, oh, I was feeling absolutely terrible and all these things, I couldn't wait to get adjusted, and I feel great now, and you haven't even touched me yet.
I walked in.
Yeah, because
the vibe in the office, that's it.
It's bigger than you, right? That energy flows out all around us. Here's a Christian.
That positive space, you create a positive space in the office, and people come into that positive space, and it affects them instantaneously.
Absolutely. Or even when they start thinking about you, when does the adjustment begin and end?
Yeah.
I think of course, as chiropractors, we think everybody's thinking about us all the time, right? I mean, isn't everybody just thinking about their chiropractor? I'm sure. Well, Christian, good to have you. I'm glad you made it.
Hey, guys.
Hey, good to see you. We're just talking about the subluxation. We're talking about the dynamics of it, where we're really, we know the smallest amount of a universe of understanding of what a subluxation is really, because it also has to do with innate intelligence. It has to do with the spiritual part of the body manifesting into the physical, right? A subluxation doesn't really happen on its own. You get hit by a bus, yeah, you get subluxated, or someone, your wife, punches you in the face. No, I'm just kidding. But ultimately, the subluxation's coming from within. So you've heard me say it on here, many people have, that really the innate intelligence, the subluxation is a communication of innate. And chiropractors are the first ones to really learn that language. And I'm saying first, we're really the only people are trying to claim it, but they don't know our philosophy to this level in depth. Then it's empty. If you don't have the principles, it's empty. Okay. You're up next. You ready to go, Alan?
Yep.
All right, go for it. Well, where are we? Let's let Christian know.
We're on page 28 of our masterpiece. I think that I'm going to skip down and read the last paragraph here because it kind of goes to a little bit tangentially to what we were just talking about.
Can
you want to read the first one too, where it says with this unusual distinctive? You want me to read that part? Okay. All right. So we're at the top of the page then, or where it says, with this unusual, distinctive, and unique phase of our scientific research, we were to place 2 electrode pickups on innate portions of the brain, 2 electrodic pickups. It must have been a typo, should have been electrode pickups on educated portions of our superior merrick system, and register frequency of thought flashes between one and the other, and the possible or impossible, a lack of frequency of response actions of education in educated brain responding to same. This led us directly to a deeper study of extrasensory perception, which proved most interesting.
Okay. 1 second.
Mhm.
They're trying to measure innate intelligence, you realize, not
And
just
educated.
and educated. Okay. And they're talking about registering a thought flash, not just thinking of something, but getting a spiritual message. Okay. The thought flashes are from innate, where, I mean, I have had so many examples of things just coming and the timing be absolutely perfect, right? So registering a thought flash, it's a monumental task. It's heroic to even think about it and try in 1958. And I just wanted to take a moment and just give BJ some props. I mean, that is, and it's intense, right? And the words, just looking at this, because I really feel there's a lot of code in here. And in capital letters, it's OUR, then it comes down a couple of lines and says innate in all caps. That's why I put innate in all caps, right? Our innate. And then frequencies, educated frequencies are in italics. Our frequencies are different from the educated to the innate. And then the communication in between them, right? Above, down, inside, out. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So I really see that whole thing right there is, whoa. I mean, the amazement of what BJ is really setting out to do, right? And then being conscious of it and telling us about it. It's amazing. That's what I got out of that paragraph. And that's why I wanted to read that. Thank you, Alan.
The odd piece that I wanted to pick up, which is a little bit off, but is interesting because it relates to some of this other extrasensory issue or that we don't often think about. And part of and again, research that he did. And this is an interesting paragraph, and it's set off in parentheses from the rest of the material. And he says, one of the peculiar twists we proved was that it took 19 times more energy to sleep east and west than it did north and south. Reason was simple. By testing sleepers both ways, we proved there was cross conflicts of currents between external north and south pole magnetic waves penetrating bodies of those with heads of our sleepers east and west. By sleeping with north and south magnetic waves, this eliminated conflicting opposition, and they woke up more refreshed and rested. One hotel chain actually adapted this idea and turned all beds in their hotels north and south. And Dr. Sid would talk about the fact that he'd go to a hotel room and change the room and turn the room around and move the bed. And so to be facing north-south rather than, and make so that he always wanted to sleep north-south.
Tell you this, I might be moving my bed tomorrow or tonight. I'm east and west right now. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I remember that from Dr. Sid mentioning things like that. Now that you say that, interesting. Go ahead, Christian.
I was doing a little bit of reading. I'm a few pages behind. And there's something about nerve tracing on page 11 to page 15, I think. And it talks about some science there. And it says they get in a room where it's blocked from all of the magnetic waves. So I don't remember if it's the neurocolometer, but it measures something about in the nervous systems. I don't remember what it is.
They did that with the neurocolometers as well as with the tympograph, the neuroencephalomane tympograph. That they built rooms that were shielded, copper shielding, and sealed above and below, so they were entirely separated from any magnetic and radio waves, so they could get pure measurements. Because what they were trying to measure, they determined was so small, the nerve energy that's being transmitted. They were trying to measure. I forget. He says it in that area you're talking about. It's like, it was such a small amount that they had to block everything out, and they want to get absolute true readings. And they did all the neurocalligraph readings in shielded rooms as well. And I think I said on that, when we were reading that part, that I understand that they had boxes where they had spring water would be piped through, and they'd have 3 NCMs in each box, or 2 in each box and 3 in each room, and they would switch them out. They would only do so many readings on people before they would switch them out, so they were always at a constant temperature. They had them cooled constantly by spring water, not running over them because they were electric, but we'd keep them at a constant cool temperature, the spring water in those boxes.
So it's part of his research to
His research was to control. He was doing clinically controlled research. He was trying to eliminate factors to be able to do clean research.
Okay, and I understand, but if I don't know how to say this, but if you think of the world, and if it has its north and south poles and east and west, if you do the measuring outside, and instead of blocking all that magnetic ground, it's, if you think of it, it's like we're like a whole number. We are united with the world. And if you try to separate that, then I think the measurement or whatever the research he was doing, maybe it's not that properly to do it that way.
Well, he's working on getting an understanding of how his instrument functions. And they were trying to get as clear as possible. Yes, the disconnection from other people, and really even that solitude is what they were really trying to get, was just that person, that moment, that subluxation, the best that they could, because they were really trying to prove what DD already knew innately, what God gave him that message. And, it's a hard process, but you think about what he went through to do that. And, is it definitive? It's as close as you can absolutely get in the 1920s. Even today, getting that type of data, it's just, he set the standard for a lot of things. The human component is extremely important. That's why I'm not the biggest fan of table mounted adjusting, right? Atlas orthogonal and things like that, even though I use it and I go get it done. But I like hands done by hand, people touching me. An activator, we can go through. I mean, that's like, it's that energy's traveling through that. It's the table mounted instruments that really, to me, don't have as much love. But I still get them. Don't get me wrong. And they're very valid. And I actually like to be adjusted by it sometimes. And Dr. Sweat had done amazing research himself. But, I see your point. I think
you have to remember, Christian, that he constantly is talking about all this is done in living. All the works in chiropractic is about living people, living things. He's very aware of that. But when you're doing research, you may need to try to isolate portions to do your study and to figure out how it's working, and you isolate a piece so that then you can have a better understanding of the whole. And I think that's partly so you're right. It may eliminate a lot of that contact with the universal spirit, or that the energies that normally are affecting the person, but it allows a better understanding of that one piece of the puzzle, and to help isolate the issues that are going on with that person at that time. If you're doing your neurocalligraph readings, I mean, when you do the scans in the office, you have people sit for a couple minutes before you scan them, so that they've settled down. They're not hyper from all their travel to the office, or the hassle of the driving, or whatever, or the work day. And you have them sit for a minute and let them normalize before you do your scan. Is that an accurate reading? Okay. I mean,
let's go on to this next section where we're at disease. I want to go to dis-ease on 29. There might be some other things, but I just want to go right to this one. Dis-ease is only.
Where are you? Oh, okay.
29 at dis-ease, the second paragraph.
Yeah.
Is only 2 kinds. below par quality of nerve force flowing, producing a paralyzed, stagnated muscular function, or the inward from above down, inside out effort upon the part of the natural, normal, intranal, what's that?
Internal, it's a misprint.
Oh, yeah, okay, it's a misprint. Internal
typo.
mental impulse supplying to adapt itself to lowered functional par. Okay. So he's talking about poor nerve quality, and then from functioning, or the inward from above down, inside out, affecting, that is from the viscera out, from the organ out. You know, getting into an understanding of what dis-ease is disease. That's another part. As chiropractors, we need to define specifically for ourselves. You know, it's something I've always been really curious in the definitions of and the understandings of. Make sense? What do you guys
Yes.
think? We can move on.
Okay. Some symptoms and or pathologies take on the above par appearance. Example, reduce, he goes through a bunch of symptoms here.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can skip it if you want.
I'm going to skip the rest of that paragraph.
Yeah.
This was the character of scientific research we were doing at the PSC. With our tympograph, we measured quantity flow from the brain to kidneys on a par case. That means a case that was normal. We measured quantity flow from brain to kidneys in a par case. We also measured, calibrated, and evaluated the below par flow from kidneys, were sluggish, paralyzed, stagnated, with kidneys existing in body somewhere. We located the vertebral subluxation, which was interfering with par to below par, by adjusting this, restoring par flow between brain through spinal cord, out through the intervertebral foramen to kidneys. We then measured quantity action in kidneys, knowing that they were going through the transition from below par up to par. So he's talking about that this is what they were doing with the tympograph. They were being able to measure where there was they were able to measure what normal was, find something was below normal, and adjust and see the change happen that allowed a restoration towards normal.
Now, I would assume the tympograph is closely related to surface EMG.
Surface EMG is closer to an NCM, neurocalligraph.
Really?
The tympograph was 8 contacts.
Well, I mean, 8 contacts, but then you have, but I'm talking about, a Titron, you're measuring thermal. The neurocalligraph, cal is calorie, is measuring thermal with the thermal couplings.
Okay, yeah.
The tympograph, they're measuring output. Okay, measuring
surface
quality.
EMG, you're right.
So quality and flow, that's what I use EMG in my office.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where what we're really kind of looking at.
Yes.
Okay. Should we go to 30?
Okay. It's possible, and too frequently happens, that scientists out of one field of research going into another field blind get deeply immersed in one physical phase of one element or aspect of a problem, losing sight of all original or new foreign approaches, losing or having no knowledge whatsoever of all contributory or allied subject abstract facts which created the original and primary problem being researched. This type of research, and they have some dots there, there's some word that they couldn't figure out as they were transcribing this. This type of research and has sacrificed the chiropractic theory, but it does not go to the heart of chiropractic problem. After all, what is the ultimate object of TIC or TOR? Is it to get sick people well, or to prove the physical scientific world that they are physically scientific? If as and when physical scientists think TIC is physically sound, what will they do with our abstract innate, without which tick fails to get sick people well? Is that a good place to stop for a second?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you guys think?
So it's interesting because he's talking about, what he's saying here is that scientists that from the outside thinking in the physical plane and are only thinking of individual pieces of the puzzle. This goes back to what Christian was saying about eliminating all the outside effects, but BJ's looking at everything. He's saying, what if when other people come in and look at one piece without looking at everything that we talk about in chiropractic, then they won't see the whole thing, and they'll lose track of it. And I think that may be something that's contributed to the problems we have in our field today.
It's 100% correct. What he's saying, without spirit, without innate, the way we look at it is spirit in the body, there's nothing. Tick fails. It doesn't work if there's no innate component or spiritual component to what we do. And you're right on target with that, Alan. I got to mark that one right now. Let me get my crayon out, because I think that it's profound, but it's also like, look, if you leave a part of this out, you have nothing. It's not a hologram, right? Each part is absolutely necessary for each other. And if you leave the spiritual component out, and everyone said it, Dee Dee said it multiple times, BJ said it, and what they're doing is, I hate to say it, it's like dumbing chiropractic down to the most simple. And then my father said this on his dying deathbed. My father was internal medicine in England. And he said, there's the saddest moment of my life. There's no such thing as a doctor anymore. They're just technicians. And he said that about the doctors at Sloan Kettering in Manhattan. And you know what? He's right. And they're trying to do the same.
They follow an algorithm. Yeah.
You don't give a shit about you. What they do, we're just technicians. We push the button, rip this out. That's it, because we're following the list of things that you should do. And that's what they're trying to do with chiropractic. And I've been saying that for years. They just want to make technicians. It's easier. If you have a table that goes, rah, 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 okay, you're done, right? Did you really adjust someone? Or did you put them on I don't know, I don't even know what to call that thing, a Leander table? That's what I'm talking about. So I don't know. I think that is one of the most important points in chiropractic, and it's necessary, Alan, and everybody else.
This relates to that other piece we were reading a minute ago. The three parts are integral. They absolutely all fit together, and you can't have one without the other, as the song goes, right?
Did you do the once physical scientists, the paragraph just below that?
Once physical scientists prove our principle and its physical aspects sound, have they added to or subtracted that abstract innate, without which nothing has been proven, and the vital living causative and curative factors have been eliminated? Without
spirit, there is nothing. Okay, that is the principle of chiropractic, more so than the 33 of these past couple of pages from BJ Palmer. Okay, we have to have all three legs, or is it four, right? And you can prove this, the physical stuff, like Speransky did. Speransky proved this physical, and we applaud him. BJ was trying to measure the spiritual. He was trying to measure innate. He was trying to measure thought flashes. But it is abstract. You can't put a number on spiritual component. You even have it, even that energy is within, or it has left you and we're under the soil, right? And universal forces take back over. So I'm really happy we read these and discussed them, because these paragraphs, this is page 30 of our masterpiece, midway down, okay? Very, very important. And the past couple of paragraphs as well. So, I'm quite honestly, okay, I'm going to read this next paragraph, and I think we've got to be done, because these were big concepts and we need to leave them in this one as they are, okay? What about thousands of chiropractors who've been adjusting vertebral subluxations in millions of living sick people since 1895, getting them well, uniting abstract innate with physical bodies, balancing innate above and function below, making normal a free quantity flow of mental impulses from above down, inside out, proving the new unity of abstract philosophical with its concrete physical sickness. Whoa, I've got to read the next paragraph too because it's important. Suppose when D.D. Palmer adjusted Harvey Lillard in 1895 and restored his hearing, he had hesitated, questioned in his mind what he had accomplished. Oh my gosh, I've got to underline all this, so important. What he had hesitated, questioned in his mind what he had accomplished, and debated whether he had better have some independent researchers, in quotes, neurologists, physiologists, etc., end quotes, quoting Al Adams, investigate his theory and pass judgment whether his discovery should be proclaimed and advocated by him. He knew it was right. He didn't have to ask anybody to prove it to him. What if he didn't follow his thought flash, is what he's saying. I'm going to keep going because it's really good. Suppose D.D. Palmer in 1895 had debated, questioned, meditated, and invited in outside research teams, in quotes, with the assistance of competent electric technicians and other qualified personnel, another quote, end quote, who would, I'm going to say quotes, be called in the necessary, end quotes, to have them investigate how and why Harvey Lillard had his hearing restored, pass judgment upon its reliability, authenticity, whether it was a delusion on the part of D.D. Palmer and or Harvey Lillard, as to whether this was the one of those unknown, unexplainable miracles before he had began to promulgate and teach what he had to students. Whoa. You don't have to ask permission for anything. We go out with this cloak of honor in ourselves as chiropractors and go out and serve the people. We don't need anybody to validate us. What we are doing is right, and we know it's right. And the ones that we look to validate us are usually the ones trying to invalidate us. And you know what? He just said, stand up. DD did it for you. I've done it for you, and stand up for yourselves, chiropractors, right? That's what I take from that, man.
Yeah, and I think that we need to be aware that, going back to the earlier paragraph, it says uniting abstract innate and physical bodies, balancing innate above and function below. I think that many chiropractors today never understand that, never participate in that. That's the part, this group of things we're talking about here are the things that BJ saw in the early 60s and before that as problems coming for the profession, and they've all come home to roost in spades.
Yep. And I have been interviewing associates for my office and lovely people, and I've met some good friends that are amazing chiropractors. What I see a lot in the recent grads that come from some schools, I'm not going to name anything or what have you, but they don't get that level of philosophy. None of the schools teach it. None of the schools teach it. What they do is they get it from the student body, the mentors that come to certain schools. You get a little bit more of this depth. And I think that is absolutely valuable. And that's why we have to get out and teach it. It's why we have this podcast. So Christian in Mexico can get it. I just did a seminar for the students in Brazil, and we're putting captions in Portuguese. What I'll do is I'll also get it in Spanish, Christian, okay? It's an hour and a half of philosophy and adjusting. I think it's a good one. We worked hard on the video, but we have to get out and teach and just show what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. So thank you everybody for being on here. I mean, it's a valuable mission.
the way I've been reading stuff before I went to school. I was mature and working before I went to chiropractic school. But when I went to chiropractic school, and I started at Sherman, and I walked into the first class at 7:30 in the morning, and it was philosophy class, and the president of the school, Tom Gilardi, was teaching the class. You get the idea when that happens, that philosophy is an important part of the program.
Right.
The president is there at 7:30 in the morning to teach first quarter students. You got to figure it's something they want you to know.
You got to, it's important. I'll say
Yeah.
this, the general public believes more in innate intelligence once they are given that it exists or given an understanding of it than many of the chiropractors in the chiropractic schools around the world.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a sad thing because the people believe it. Hey there, Bob. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, hi, I've been here. I got
Welcome
home a little
home.
late. I was eating dinner while I was listening in on all this.
You're making me hungry now.
You didn't eat dinner yet. That's the way it goes, man.
That's
Yeah.
it.
That's tough to be the boss. Listen, something came to me and so I figured I should share it.
Please.
We can't measure it, but it came to me. You know, when someone says to you, I don't think much of chiropractic, check how you react to that or don't react to that. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if that gets you mad or angry or upset in any way, you're not there yet. And I'm not saying that to be mean to you. I'm saying that to teach you to get past that point. Because as our friend Pasquale said, if science can't prove it, that's too damn bad for science. You know, and at the same time, you know, you'd have to love that person. You have to, if anything, feel a little pity for them, that they're not going to benefit from this wonderful, amazing new science and art and philosophy. But yeah, if you're getting upset about that, or you feel like you want to fight that person verbally or otherwise, you're not there yet. You got to check yourself on that. You got to be more confident about it than that. That's
You know,
just came to me.
What I thought of, Bob, when you said that too, what they're thinking is none of your business. Pasquale would say, hey, it's none of your, or when they're sick, what they're going through is none of your business. So there's no point in getting mad at people, right? We just keep doing our thing.
You don't know what their circumstances that got them to that place. You know,
And another
we've
thing
got, and you got to just give them the space, and you give them the information and let them choose what they want that they can get from you. And you walk on and say next. It's like the story about the fire in the hotel, right? You knock on the door and say, there's a fire. And the person comes, says, where? Then you go, and they go to the next door, say, knock, knock, knock. There's a fire, get out. The person runs. Get to the third door again, knock, knock, knock. There's a fire. And they go, where's the fire? It's down the stairwell. No, I don't smell any smoke. Well, it's burning. You got to hurry up and go. Well, in the time you've been wasting talking to this person, you could have knocked on 4 more doors. You know, so you just.
Right. The other thing that came to me while this was all conversation going on is people will tell you about their symptoms. And I know that it's vogue amongst us to say we don't deal with symptoms and this and that. But you know what? I always listen when people talk about their symptoms, because you never know when that's innate telling them to tell you that. And they're telling you something that you should hear and know and respond to, even in action. So when someone tells me about their symptoms, I don't purposely go to a different area and forget about they said it and to prove some point to them. I listen to that and I go there and I see what's going on there. And very often I find that they need an adjustment, maybe in that area. Maybe they don't. If not, there's an explanation for them, you know?
And you know what? You just want to be heard. I've been in their situation. You want to just tell them, look what the hell I've gone through. And some people, they just want to be heard, right? It's
that too.
That's huge, man. All that stuff. You're right.
And whether, you know, they're telling you have a symptom, and, you know, I always make sure that I touch that place for them. And sometimes it gives me information and sometimes it doesn't, but But if there's a symptom, there's usually there's an interference someplace that you know you need to find. You want to listen, you want to acknowledge what's going on for them, and by touching the place, that helps them just instantly in that aspect. But whether you have to adjust it or not, you find the place where the interference actually is, and you know you're helping the problem overall. Yeah.
And like after we adjust them, like it happened again today. It happens quite frequently. The guy was standing there, he's going, "Oh, I feel cramps in my back now." And I said, "Well, that's a really good indication that your body is responding to this adjustment. It's almost like it's putting a cast on there and keeping that place right for you, or continuing to make a correction for you with your own muscles." And I said, "It'll calm down. It'll calm down shortly. Don't you worry about it." And sure enough, before the next person in this family or two gets adjusted, I ask him, "Hey, how's it going? All calm down?" He's like, "Yeah, it's all good now." And we see that so often. We see how the body, after we do what we do, does its fine tuning. It's like on a violin, there's that peg, but it also on that high string has a little thing that you can turn to fine tune it. That body does some fine tuning after we get done.
Exactly right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been an awesome evening. We got a lot out of this chapter. I mean, I'm excited about it. I've been excited about reading this book since we started, and I've never broken it open before. So I'm really stoked to go through it with you guys, because there's good stuff in here. It is really good. I mean, it's BJ's final writing. He still hasn't used commas. He's used a lot of quotes and occasionally puts in a period somewhere. But all right, go ahead, Christian.
Your hand's
Did you raise
still
your
up there.
hand?
You have something to say?
I have something to share with you guys last week. I remember we were checking about the 4 elements about a subluxation and how it feels and how it expresses itself on a person's body. And something that you guys touched this night, you mentioned something about Didi Palmer, like going to be at the right place at the right moment and doing the right adjustment, and Harvey later recovered his hearing. And something happened to me last week, because one of my friends was telling me he was about to get a cold and he was absent in school, and something told me that I should go visit him. So I went to his house, and he had his pelvic bench there at his room, and I adjusted him, but I felt like I needed to do that for him. So I went and I got through it. I adjusted him, and for me it was a really nice experience, because I thought I gave my best adjustment, even when I didn't know if I was doing it right, but something was guiding me, and it said, touch here, move here, and keep going. We're almost done. I did about like 4 adjustments on his body, and after that, he wanted to adjust me, so I let him, but I felt like he wasn't ready because he was going through sickness, but I let him try it so he can figure out that maybe he tried to adjust me because he wanted to show off. So I told him that's the way it doesn't work. You have to be more of a humble person. So that magic in the adjustment can happen through you, because if you are doing it to show off, you can't see the magic. And last week, that's what I learned, that if you have like your mind in peace, something is always there to guide you, and it's telling you the listings before you even figure them out. They're already there. Your body knows what the other person's body needs. You just have to trust yourself and become a whole with the other person, so the adjustment can be done correctly.
The more you hit the jackpot, the more you learn to listen to that, the more you learn to listen to that sound, that feeling, the more that feeling will be there for you. And that's what Haig calls innate adjusting.
That is the Nate adjusting, my man. You
And
just,
that is a beautiful thing. You can see us grinning while you were talking. I hope you can
oh,
see us
man.
because we're grinning. The three of us are all grinning from ear to ear listening to you.
that is
you hit the
music to our
jackpot.
ears. You gave it a Nate driven adjustment and you listened to your own spirit. That is fantastic.
I I got the idea and I started to question myself because I saw page 17 and I saw three questions that said why, where, and when to adjust. And that's what I felt last week when I went to my friend's house. Something told me why, I don't know, but I had to go. Where, it didn't matter where I was, but I remember it was in the afternoon. I was at the right place at the right moment, and it was the right time, and I just went for it. And that's the way every knowledge I learned here with you guys, I keep sharing, sharing with my friends the more simply I can with them, because this is not easy. I mean, BJ and Didi Palmer have a, I feel like they have a fancy way of expressing themselves, and they use words that sometimes I try to keep on and try to understand what they're saying, but sometimes I don't. But I think I got the hang of it.
That's why we try and talk about it here. We're still trying to understand it too. And I've been in practice for 35 years. So it's it's always it's a continuing growth process, and understanding continues to grow. And that's why we love talking about this stuff. We get to share with each other, and it helps us understand better what we're doing, and to help you understand is just icing on the cake.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I can sleep happy tonight. I know we're getting our message out around the world. We know it. Lives are changing every day from chiropractic care, and I feel honored to be a part of it. And this group too, Synex Philosophy Group. I love you guys. Well, it's almost 9:00, and it's time for us to end. And we're going to be back next Tuesday. Okay, and same time. Okay, Christian, you got it this time. And we'll be right back at it, starting on page 31. Good night, everybody.
Right. Good night.
Okay,
Thank you.
I was gonna ask you guys. I don't know if you guys have the time, but I think it'll be great if we can do it more than once a week.
Let's get once a week really blossoming with more people here, and then we can add more later. How about that? That's a challenge, to bring more people to the table. And then we add it more, okay?
I think I can bring a lot of people. The thing is, the hard part is getting them to understand and follow the rhythm of the philosophy class.
A great plan. I have a great plan. What we'll do is we have this once a week, but we can also release them. And we had some students adding subtitles in Mexico from Univet, and we can add subtitles in our old ones because we have hundreds. Okay, from Didi Palmer, Stevenson, BJ Palmer. We have a lot of great material. But let's get more people to this one, and then we can always add more. But we can come up with a plan like that. We have hundreds of videos, guys. Okay, almost 3 years that we've been doing this. And a lot of the old ones we were translating in Spanish as we were going. So that's a great plan, Christian. I'm excited for you. Okay, let's do it. We'll do it in some way, but probably releasing one of the older ones. Okay. I can't commit to another day right now. All right, I got to go, guys. Good night.
Good night.
God bless you.